So I gotta say, Wonder Man was so good that I miss it.
Yeah, I agree and disagree in the sense that like I really wish I could have seen more just because I enjoyed that whole world, like because it's just very different from like what Marvel's done. It's not your typical like it's like, oh, here's just a whole bunch of like action and all this other stuff, or like you needed like a whole bunch of like homework before watching this. Um, but it's also one of those shows that I don't know, it didn't like hit me like crazy hard. I thought it was a great show. But
Yeah.
um yeah, I thought it was a great new take and a great way for Marvel to kind of like experiment. And I think it's like kind of funny that with Wonder Man, I feel like a lot of people, as soon as like Marvel released the trailer and everything, they kind of had already made their own opinion about it because they saw the trailer and they're just like, oh, this is just gonna be like some just Hollywood type stuff. Like it
Like
really
woke.
doesn't. Yeah, like you saw
Yeah.
Hollywood and it's like, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
where is this gonna go?
And
And
and let's get this part out the way as well. Like everyone said that they race swapped Wonder Man. And they did, but they didn't. You know what I mean?
yes, so and that's another thing I was thinking like when I first found like I didn't know anything about Wonder Man. I looked it
Me
up
neither.
and I noticed that you know first comic issue that came out like Wonder Man is a like Caucasian like white male, you know.
Yeah.
So I was kind of curious as to how they would go about this. But it was actually just like kind of like he said, he's Wonder Man, but not really like the original Wonder Man in
Yeah.
a sense.
Now
Uh,
he is now his name is still Simon, what was his last name?
it's freaking I can't remember.
Simon
Wow,
was it Simon Williams?
Simon Williams. Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so he was he still is Simon Williams in the show. So technically it is a race swap, but how they do it is, and if you I mean this is not really a spoiler, but it might help you watch it, is that Wonder Man was his like his idol because he was like a movie star. It was a movie growing up in that
Yeah,
world. So it was his idol. He always wanted to be Wonder Man, and it was something that him and his dad bonded over, which I thought was such a smart way. Like if you are gonna do a race swap, at least make it like um believable, I guess you could say, right?
yeah, exactly.
Instead of just forcing it. And this was a very like great way to do it?
And another thing, it's also Wonder Man isn't like a well-known Marvel character. So like really if
Yeah,
you didn't do any digging, you
yeah,
probably wouldn't even know, honestly.
exactly, exactly. Um,
But
yeah.
I think the actor, Yaba, I'm not gonna say the rest of the name because I'll probably butcher it, but he did so great in like showcasing what I'm assuming, because obviously I'm not an actor, so I don't know the whole process. But showcasing like what they go through and have to deal with on like a constant basis of like
Yeah.
finding work and dealing with stress and like all this other stuff. Like I give props to like actors and actresses because like I could definitely not just do all that because it definitely takes
Takes a mental
some,
toll.
yeah, it takes mental toll and definitely takes some skill.
Yeah. So I would just give my rating like out of 10. I would like I'm gonna say between a 8 and an 8.8. Somewhere in that region. If I had to say pick just one number, I would say like 8.2 out of 10. I thought it
Okay.
was that good. Even though there
Okay.
is zero action, and if you're expecting like um I know it's funny because it's a superhero like show and you're expecting action, but there
And I
is
think
literally
that's what
zero
people like were kind of just like that's
like
why
complaining
people
about.
probably like bounced or like didn't even bother watching it because they were probably just like, ew, like no, I don't watch superhero shows to like not watch action and all this other stuff,
Right.
which I think is ridiculous because like there's
Yeah.
some characters like in like Marvel comics, DC comics, like they don't require action. Like
Right.
that's not all they are. But jumping on what you said, so you said like an 8.2. So actually, I gave it like a 2 out of 10. Just kidding.
Oh,
Um,
Jesus Christ. I'm about to say.
So ultimately, actually, I it's an 8.1 for me.
Oh, dude, that is as close as our ratings have ever gotten to each
I was
other.
about to say
That is crazy.
when you said 8.2, I'm like, damn, okay, that's pretty close to what I would like. I
Yeah.
thought it was a great show.
Yeah.
Like, especially because I didn't have very like high expectations for it. Because again,
Same, me neither.
I was expecting another typical like Marvel show,
Yeah.
and this was definitely not it. Like it was completely different. Like you could tell they took a risk, and it definitely paid off.
It 100% paid off. Um, is it okay if we get into spoiler territory now?
Sure, fuck it, why not?
Okay, so th this will be if you haven't seen it, stop it right here. This is where we're getting into spoiler territory. Um, I thought not only was the like obviously there's no action, but the story was so good, but the little tidbits of like life advice that the Mandarin gave was so relatable and so real. Like
Yeah,
that, like I know it's corny, but like I'm gonna carry that advice,
and
to
I'm
my
sorry, but
life.
their little chemistry together, like their little back and forth,
Perfect.
I loved it.
It was
I loved it.
perfect. And dude, I liked how real that Wonder Man was, Simon Williams. His character flaws were so real. Like he's kind of like this socially awkward guy
Mm-hmm.
and like where he just doesn't make much friends because he's just that's how he is and like
Yeah.
he's also very focused on his craft. He's just not good at making friends. And then you've got like the Mandarin who's fucking like he's such a charming guy. He makes friends wherever he goes. And obviously they're both bonded by like their love for acting. But the way he was portrayed as like like his social anxiety, it wasn't like it was so like just real. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you know the way in some shows when there's like a social anxious character, they kind of make it over the top.
Yeah.
This was like this wasn't over the top. This was like
It was actually
oh,
like believable,
it
realistic.
was it was believable and sometimes he was kind of like a but like he wasn't trying to be a like when he would say like
Yeah.
hey can we just change this line, he kept asking to change the lines or the part where later on when he was like oh yeah let me get that he kept asking for his food and then he's like actually I don't want
Yeah,
it
let me get
like
the kept changing just like
yeah,
no. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed that whole aspect. I don't know. It's just like I said, I'll keep saying it over and over throughout this whole thing, but I just enjoyed that again, it just wasn't your typical show that we normally get from just like
yeah,
superhero shows. And like I like that like what it was aiming for, it wasn't like trying to win you over with like spectacles, like all
yeah,
that crazy action stuff. It was more interested in like, like identity or like character development than like the actual plot.
right
Like
and yeah,
it's like it was more so like, performance over like power. And like I still enjoyed the little tidbits that we got, like the little powers here and there where you could actually like kind of guesstimate what his powers were, but they didn't really.
they didn't like out and out say it.
Yeah, they didn't really give you like the full gist of what his powers were until you kind of get more of a grasp closer to the end of the show.
Yeah,
And
and even then,
even then you're still kind of like, damn, okay, what is he like fully capable of?
yeah. And
So I enjoyed that.
now one of the critiques I've heard was like, oh, his secret could be any secret and the story would still work. Like he could be a drug lord and the story would still work. And I completely disagree with that.
I also disagree with that, and that's also due to the fact because there's one particular episode
With the doorman.
with the doorman that kind of tells you exactly why his secret is so important because
Right.
acting is all he's
All
ever
these
like
in yeah.
all he's done, and especially because it was his dad that actually encouraged him
But also
to go out and pursue acting.
exactly. And but also like to the people who said like any secret could fit in like a drug lord. A drug lord wouldn't fit in because usually drug lords on average anyways are bad people. Whereas like he was just gifted these superpowers. He's just himself, he doesn't
Mm-hmm.
want the responsibility of having to like save people or stuff like that. He just wants to be an actor. That's it. And that's why the superhero secret is I think the only thing that makes sense for this story. You know what I mean? Like what
Yeah,
other secret could make sense? And
I was
you
about to
know,
say I don't know, but that's what I liked because it was like it was almost like Simon Williams was the main guy, and like the superpowers were like took a back seat. Like it was not the main focus of the show
exactly. Yeah.
at all. Like it wanted to focus more on just full on character identity, um, all that whole spectacle stuff.
And
Um,
also all the plot lines, like all the what would you call it? I guess I guess the plot, I don't know, the plot lines, they all made sense. It wasn't nothing was a stretch, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely not. But I know there's been a couple of like people like some reviews I've actually read that say that the show is like interesting, but it's kind of uneven, mainly like during the middle or
I don't see that how. What
like
do you
during the
mean?
middle.
What do they
Um,
mean, I should say?
so, and this is probably the people that didn't enjoy the aspect of it, like maybe, they were expecting maybe it was going to be a full blown superhero show,
Right, right.
but there were just some people that didn't like that. It felt slow, and that it felt like there was definitely some episodes that just I guess didn't really hit or didn't make sense for some people. And I'll be honest, I was definitely one of those for I know everybody might hate me for this, but episode 4, the Doorman episode, I was
I
not a
hate
fan
you.
of it at first until I finished the whole show.
Okay.
Cause so for me, I thought, don't get me wrong, I thought it was a good episode. It by no means was it a horrible episode.
Uh-huh.
I just thought initially for me it was more so like, okay, I felt like it just kind of stopped you, and then it was a full episode on the Doorman. I felt like it might have been better if it was maybe like 60% of the Doorman like backstory, and then kind of then go back to the present, and kind of dwell a little more on the Doorman stuff like in the present
Yeah.
instead of the past. Or I feel like for me, it would have worked better if maybe they would have made the Doorman episode like an episode or two before, especially when I think it was in the first episode where they had him sign the Doorman policy or whatever.
See, I'll disagree with you there because if they brought it in too early,
Well, you're
there's
wrong, but
okay. Well, if they brought it in too early, there's no sense of like buildup of mystery, like, oh, what is this? There was a buildup of mystery over the 3 episodes, I thought. You know what I mean?
yeah, I mean, I guess I could understand that. But either way, like I said,
Right.
that's one of the episodes I know a lot of people love, but I know there are other people that again they're expecting this whole spectacle and whatnot. But once I finish the show, I do like in hindsight now, like it
Yeah.
does kind of show you like okay, why are superheroes banned from the movies?
Right, right, right.
Like, um, like why is like the movie culture and like or the entertainment culture like scared of powered people being in entertainment? Like it kind of showed you that
Right.
whole spectrum of like why superheroes probably shouldn't be in the movie industry.
And you know what else it does? Having a full episode about Doorman, it it's a good setup for him to appear again in the MCU, you know?
Yep.
Because we have a good grasp of his backstory now. And also, I think if they were releasing the episodes weekly and it was an episode about Doorman the whole time, you'd be like, okay, that's annoying. But the fact that they released it all at once, it was like, okay, that's fine.
That
You know what I
that
mean?
may yeah that makes a lot more sense actually. Yeah, I think if it would have been because yeah, if you were watching it weekly and you just finished episode 3 and you're
You're waiting for
raring
more.
for
Yeah.
episode 4, and then all of a sudden they completely kind of like stop on
Yeah.
like Simon Williams, and then they give you like this whole backstory, and it's like, oh, it's just a like backstory, like
Yeah.
episode. Okay, I guess I'll wait for so but yeah, I guess I get what you're
Yeah,
saying on that aspect.
it would be annoying to wait another week after that, but yeah, man, it's just I I did not expect it to be that good. I think
I didn't either,
it
honestly. I did not expect it to be in the eights for me.
oh no, no, definitely not. Um yeah, my it might be my favorite Marvel live action show of all time.
That's a
Don't
hot
tell me what yours is,
that's a
but
hot take.
it could be a hot take, but
Yeah, no, honestly, I really thought the best thing of that show um was I mean Simon. I really
Simon,
thought like they
yeah.
he performed so well and they did him so well, like they showcased him so well throughout the show. And don't get me
Hmm.
wrong, I mean, um, what's his?
The Mandarin.
Yes, thank you, the Mandarin. Like their whole relationship, I loved it.
Yes.
Like I thought it was great.
Trevor Slattery, by the way.
Thank you.
The Mandarin was just his like villain name because he was if in case anyone didn't catch it, he was in Iron Man 3. He was a villain in Iron Man 3 and he also appeared in Shang-Chi as well.
Yeah, there's actually some cameos in the show that I didn't realize until like later on, like the
Like
Mandarin.
who?
Like the Mandarin was one of those where I was like, man. But then they reiterated it on like I can't remember what episode.
They reiterated it on episode 2, but then they did it again in like I think 7 or 8.
Yeah, and then that's when I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about you, bud.
I knew on episode 2 I was like, wait a minute, where is he from?
Yeah,
And then yeah, it's
because
just
I
been
because I
so
also
long.
forget that like Marvel is kind of set in like our real life world.
Right, right. So like the time that has passed is also the time that's passed in the MCU.
Yeah, so like for example, like like Marvel set in like our real life world versus like if you go with um like the new DC, it has Metropolis and like it's these fictional cities that are still set in the United States,
Oh,
but
I get what
not
you're saying.
actually in the United States
Yeah,
type deal. Versus Marvel, like, most of everything is like New York, California, like
right.
actual places. Like
Most of it, yeah.
they even mentioned like, Frozen, Megan 3.0, like movies
Oh
that,
yeah.
that like that are actually, out or maybe people are working on.
Yeah. Or
But
Josh Gad as well.
oh, yep.
Yeah, like the actor Josh Gad who
Friggin' Olaf and Frozen.
yeah. Um the it was so good. The performance, by the way, from both Trevor's actor Ben Kingsley and then Simon's actor Yahya Abdul Mateen, I
Oh,
think.
yep,
uh
sure.
both of their performances were so good, man. Like it felt so. And you know what I think helped is like obviously the people writing about it. That's like they live in Hollywood, like that's what they do. They know the careers of like actors and writers.
Mm-hmm.
So they were able to write a story about this very accurately and
Yep.
like how it actually is and how it actually feels, which is always a bonus, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I thought, especially like the later episodes, like 5 through 8, that's when because initially, like you said earlier, like, he starts out very like insecure, just very unsure of himself.
Yeah.
He's kind of like reacting to the world around him. But by like 5 through 8, you can actually like feel him like become more active, start making decisions. Um,
But that's also like a large part due to Trevor. Like,
well, yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
he kind of grew as a person, but also, I mean, obviously thanks to Trevor.
yeah. And then he at some point, like I think episode 7, but right before Trevor got arrested, he over relied on Trevor a little bit. But then obviously once he got arrested, he was able to grow himself as well, you know?
Yeah. But honestly, I feel like with the character like in the show, I feel like they it fits fairly well into Wonder Man like in the comics. Because Wonder Man has kind of been messy. Apparently, I didn't know this. I had to do a little bit of research on my own. Apparently, Wonder Man, if you didn't know this, apparently he's been a hero, he's been a villain, He's been an Avenger,
Yeah,
and then obviously,
he
and then
started off as a
obviously
villain.
we know he's an actor. So,
Yeah.
so it's kind of nice because it Wonder Man kind of leans more into like performance and like authenticity instead of like just straight up powers. It's not
Right.
like like you're like Hulk or Thor that I mean, those are pretty much just all power. That's
Yeah,
like,
all power. What yeah, and whereas Wonder Man, he's kind of like he doesn't really want the power. He just wants to act. That's
yeah,
it.
he just wants
Which
to live
is
his life, but kind of gets shoved into these scenarios where it's like, man,
yeah,
I,
it's like damn, I have this power, which means that now I have this responsibility. I don't want that. I just want to act, which
yeah,
is so different. But what one part that I really liked, I don't know how you feel about it, Miguel, that I really liked from
I hated
the
it.
show was I think I want to say like he's is he in his 30s in the show? I don't think they ever said it, did they? I think they
I,
did at one point.
I don't think they specifically mentioned it.
Well,
Unless they mention it into when like for example when they
when his
watch the
brother.
Wonder Man movie
Right, right, right.
versus to like now the present. I'm assuming he's probably in his 30s.
I would assume mid 30s, but they might have mentioned it at one point. But anyways, one
Especially if
part.
you're introducing a new character to like the MCU and
Yeah,
you're expecting to have him for a long time,
yeah,
probably want him like,
mid 30s.
20s, mid 30s.
Well,
So
I
I'm
know
assuming.
I know the actor's 39, but I was just sometimes, the character's a little
Man, he don't look like 39. He looks a lot younger than that, but
Yeah. But anyways, what I really liked was when his brother, like he went back to his family's house and his mom's always super supportive, but his brother was
man, I
like,
wanted to punch the hell out of his brother.
well, you see, his brother just cares about him and he felt his mom was kind of like coddling him, so he was kind of like, listen, man, you're in your 30s and you're still a struggling actor. Like at what point do you give up? And I feel like at that point that part is so real because he cares about him. He just wants him to have a stable job. He wants him to,
I know, but you could tell there were some moments he rage baited the hell out. Like especially when he got the mom like the mixer or whatever, blender or whatever it
Mhm.
was.
Oh,
And
right.
then he just like completely rage baited him to like getting him pissed off.
In his defense, it's because he cares about him and he felt like, their dad has passed for a while and his mom is just constantly supportive. But how like he's been struggling actor for like 15, 20 years and it's like and it must be annoying as the brother having to financially support you, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, come on, man, like are you still really gonna continue like obviously it worked out but like are you really still going to continue with this I felt that part and I love that scene because it felt so real like and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to like how like sometimes in life they feel like a failure
Yeah.
like and how like they feel like their life is so sad
Or or essentially like families that, there's one sibling that's
like a black sheep.
yeah, exactly. I feel
Yeah,
like most families have
yeah.
a black sheep.
Like think about it realistically. Like let's say you had a brother and they're in their mid 30s and there are 20 years they've been trying to be an actor, but they've been broke and it's not been working. And then you've been financially supporting them, but your mom is very like, "Oh yeah, keep going, keep going." You'd be kind of pissed, right?
I mean, maybe.
You'd be a little pissed like
But I also wouldn't fuck with my brother if I knew he had powers.
I guess. Well, no, I think you would because you'd feel like you'd still trust him, I guess, but like um I just think that's like that part would be so relatable to many people like when they feel like a failure it's like he was in a pretty sad situation man like that is kind of sad 20 years broke trying to still trying to make the dream happen
Oh, and let's
you
not
know
forget that his girl left him.
his girl left him as well he doesn't have any friends he's in a sad situation he really is and I thought a lot of people might be able to relate with that at least at some point in life I'm sure you know
Yeah.
um
No, I get that.
And then, sorry, the other relatable part was when he kept overthinking. He's like, "No, no, the character has the backstory. Let's say this, let's say that."
Yes.
And then Trevor was like, No, just think about what happens. Don't think about it. Just live the moment because then it's going to be inauthentic, you know? Like
But
that's a life advice I'm going to take on board as well, you know?
But I will say though, it was actually very interesting to see that side, like in a TV show. And the fact that like, like the first episode where he's just like, oh well, like what's my connection with this person? How long have we known each other? Like all this other like he wants to really get into like
Yeah.
the background of the character to like best
Yeah.
put out the best performance he can. And
Hmm.
I don't know if you saw this video, but there's like one good example. And I'm gonna bring it up. It
Hmm.
was like in Superman, there was like a whole argument
Oh, right.
between like David
David.
Cornsweet and
Hmm.
James Gunn, and a lot of people thought that they were like going at each other's necks, but it was actually just David Cornsweet was trying to like figure out in that moment what was Superman supposed to be feeling, like all this other stuff, and like you could tell eventually, like Gunn
Hmm.
kind of told him just like, hey, like like this is what's supposed to like this is how you're supposed to feel, like just because Luther told you this and this, I'm not going to get too much into it, until eventually it kind of clicked in his head and he was like, okay, all right, cool, let's
Hmm.
go.
But there is a difference. Number one, Sup David Cornsweet had like it was kind of it was a much briefer dialogue and it was only about one issue. He's also the main character, so I think he should bring that stuff up. Whereas in Wonder Man,
He was
he
like a
only had
side
one
character,
scene.
yeah, he
He
he,
was
he
he
was
was
like the
supposed to
side.
die.
I guess, yeah, that is also
Yeah.
true.
And also he was supposed to die in that scene. And basically he was just too far at the one end of the spectrum. And then whereas Trevor came in, he brought him back to the center. Like it's okay to be like that, but he was way too far. He was a small scene and he kept asking different questions over and over. Hey, can we
Yeah,
redo this? Which was cool to see because like overthinkers are really like that. And perfectionists slash overthinkers. They are really like that.
yeah,
Whereas Trevor's character was a live in the moment, be authentic, brought him back to the center. So like obviously you don't want to be too far at the other end either, but that's
yeah,
why it was a great
that's it.
balance.
Essentially you don't want to be too cocky.
You don't want to be too unprepared.
Yeah, you don't want to be too
Yeah.
unprepared, but you also, especially if you don't have like a big role, like yeah,
Yeah.
I guess in hindsight it does make sense. David Cornsweet was Superman, so yeah,
Yeah.
you probably do want your main actor to like fight you on like certain things that like he might think is right or not.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, in that moment, I guess that does make sense. Like he was pushing a little too hard, especially for a side
Hmm.
character.
And you could see that towards the end when he finally got the role of Wonder Man and he was trying to do it again, but then Trevor was like, "No, just focus on that one part." And then he kind of brought him back, which I thought was a great um you know sh a great way to showcase the balance of the two, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. No, it definitely was. But actually, I was gonna ask you. So why do you think some people bounced so like early on the show? Like, because I
They
know there was
did?
oh yeah, there was a good bit of people that bounced early on the show. Me
Well,
personally, I think it's because like, let's be honest, like Marvel like kind of trained us to expect like
try yeah.
a certain formula,
Um,
essentially.
I felt like people bounced on the show without watching it. They had already written it off before they ever watched it, and we know some people like that.
I was about to say, yeah, there's one person in particular that
Yeah.
we know.
And I probably because they thought it was going to be woke. It had zero. I got zero sense of any forced agenda from
I was
Wonder
about,
Man.
yeah. It was literally just like, hey, here's Hollywood. This is like the kind of
This is
stuff
what
that
it
happens
is.
in
Yeah.
Hollywood. Bam, that's it.
Um, but uh if they watched the first few episodes, I think maybe and they bounced on it. I don't get why. Maybe their prejudgment, they
Yeah.
thought like, oh, this is woke. There's no woke part.
Now, I will say though, like if you're definitely not the type of person that enjoys just like, I'm not gonna say like it was a basic show, but like where there's really not that much action. It's slower paced. It focuses more on character than like an actual like story
Yeah.
or plot. Then yeah, I could see why some people probably wouldn't like it. Um, but really, I just it's a great show. I think
It,
overall it's a great show. Like you don't need action for it to like be a great show. Like you don't like you don't need
no,
like crazy visuals. You don't need like crazy action sequences for it to
not
be
at
a great
all.
show.
Like yeah, it's a very it's simple in the sense of like he's just a struggling actor trying to make a career and trying to find his break, and he's like persistent. And then obviously he has a secret, which is a superpower, but it's also very deep, and it's very real. Like sure, it's simple but deep, I guess,
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I just there's a lot of lessons from the show that are just so real. Like, man, a lot of the stuff Trevor said, I mean, like I said earlier, I'll be taken on board. Like, just being authentic, living in the moment, not trying to think about
I'm
like what
gonna
I'm gonna
catch you
say.
quoting Trevor.
Or no, just like, like when you're like, have you ever like maybe you're going to a meeting or you're about to meet some people and you're thinking of like stuff to say,
Oh yeah.
like, like instead of that, just be like, no, just see what
Just
happens,
fuck it. Whatever comes to mind comes to
Yeah,
mind.
just what happens, whatever happens, or like maybe you like, I don't know, like I don't know, you know what I mean, but um,
And I was gonna say, so little random fun fact. So the show was actually apparently like during like limbo, during like strikes.
what do you mean?
Um, so people involved didn't really know if it was even gonna come out. Like
Why?
they didn't know if it was gonna be. There was like this whole like writer strike or whatever, like something in
Oh,
Hollywood.
okay,
Yeah, there
yeah,
was like strikes and whatnot that affected like multiple like productions. So they were like really not sure if this was actually gonna make the cut or not.
wow, I didn't know that. That's pretty crazy.
So yeah, it could
Um,
have easily been messy or unfinished, but
well, I'm so glad it came out because it's it might if this show came out 2025, it would have been my favorite show of 2025. Maybe that's a hot take. I don't know because I did watch Peacemaker. No, I think it was better than Peacemaker. I'm sorry.
what did you end up rating Peacemaker season two? Because you gave
Um,
Wonder Man an 8.2.
I believe I gave Peacemaker season 2 like a 7.9 or an 8.0.
Okay,
I'd have
that makes a
to
lot more sense then.
I'd have to check, but yeah. Is there anything else you want to add about the review? Because I got some questions to ask.
About the review, um, no, I don't think so.
Okay, well, I got some fun Wonder Man facts, or I guess some trivia for you.
Oh boy.
So I'm just gonna give you the question. If you need multiple choice, I can give you that too. But I just got three questions.
Okay.
When was Wonder Man first debuted?
19 I think 1984
Um,
when he
well,
when he
and
first debuted.
do you know the
1985.
edition?
The edition?
Or sorry, the title of the issue of the
Wonder Man?
comic? No.
No.
I'll give you multiple choice. I'll give you
Okay, I
multiple
was about to
choice.
say it's just like Wonder Man. I don't know.
You got the year wrong as well. I'll say that as well, but I'll
Okay,
give you
well,
multiple choice. So was it A, Avengers number 9, 1964, B,
fuck.
West Coast Avengers number 1, 1984, C, Miss Marvel number 18, 1977, or D, Giant Size Avengers number 3, 1974?
West Coast Avengers.
West Coast Avengers number
Well,
1,
no, you said the year was wrong.
uh this is West Coast Avengers number 1, 1984.
Well, it can't be that one because you told me 1984 is the wrong year.
Yes, you're right. It is not that one.
Okay, so not that one. Fuck. What was the last one?
Last one was Giant Size Avengers number 3, 1974.
You know what? Let's go with that one because that one sounds like very just out there, and I feel like Wonder Man just popped out of nowhere.
Okay. Well, you're right. Wonder Man kind of popped out of nowhere. But the answer is not Giant Size Avengers number
Watch
3.
it be Miss Marvel.
No, it's not that either. It's Avengers number nine in
Okay.
1964. So he first appeared in 1964 in Avengers number nine as a villain.
Yeah, see,
So
I forgot that he first appeared as the villain.
all
So I
right,
guess he
well,
probably would have popped
you're
out
0 for
sooner.
you're 0 for 1, unfortunately. But next question is, who was Wonder Man's best friend? Most iconic best friend.
And we're going based off just comics, right? Not the show.
There just of comics. This whole yeah, this is comics, and
Oof.
there was a whole series of comics made about Wonder Man and this best friend. I can give multiple choice if you want.
Vision.
No.
Okay, yeah, give me multiple choice. That's all I got.
I go, well, Vision was one of the multiple choices. So, Wolverine, Iron Man, or Beast.
That is a mix of people. Okay.
Yeah, Vision was part of the choices to throw you off because he does have a lot of crossover with Vision.
It has I have to go with Iron Man because I feel like I for some reason I feel like it would either be Iron Man or Beast.
And what are you going with?
Iron Man.
That is incorrect. It is the Beast. There
God
was
damn it.
there was a lot of comics called Wonder Man and the Beast, and there was a lot of issues created
Huh.
with those two after that.
Interesting.
Um, and then the last
So
one,
is this confirmation that Wonder Man's a mutant? Question mark.
well, this last question may answer that.
Oh,
How did Wonder Man originally get his powers? And I'm gonna just give you the multiple
I was about
choice.
to say, yeah, I would
Yeah.
not be able to guess this at all.
He was A, he was born with them. B, he was blasted with ionic energy in an experiment. C, from another planet, or D, consumed an ionic charged food.
So I know in the show they touched on the fact that he has like ionic powers. That's like his main thing. But I feel like
Now this,
the,
let me specify, this is how he originally got them in the comics.
hmm,
So well, yeah, let's just leave it at that.
he ate something and gave him powers.
That is incorrect. The
Uh,
answer is he was blasted with ionic energy in an
um,
experiment. So
I didn't think
Z
they'd be that basic.
Yeah, well, basically in Avengers number nine, Zemo, he basically he was in the originally in the comics, Simon Williams was the son of a wealthy family, and he inherited the business, and basically there was misuse funds, and he went to jail because of that. But then Zemo broke him out, or like bailed him out, whatever. But then used him for an experimental device where he blasted him with ionic energy, and that's how he got the his superpowers, his ionic
Huh.
superpowers.
Okay.
Now in the show, I think you they don't really say it, but
They
I
don't really
yeah.
specify how he got. They just know that at 13, I believe, is when he started exhibiting
So he was probably
powers.
born with them, most likely, as far as we know. Yeah,
Maybe we'll see him pop up in like future X-Men projects. Who
yeah.
knows?
It would be cool to see him in X-Men. I got a good feeling he's going to be in Vision Quest, or at least I hope,
Yeah.
but we'll see.
I'm about to say
Um,
here's to hoping.
Now,
Oh boy.
uh, this next one, what is the best live action Marvel show? We're going to start with
And we're going
Ironheart.
based off ratings.
No, no, this is your opinion.
Oh,
Your
my opinion. Okay.
So, in your opinion, what is the best live action Marvel TV show? And this includes uh the
Pre
Netflix and the
pre
MCU.
okay.
Yeah, pre
In my
like
opinion,
now hold on, I'm gonna give you choices.
oh, you're giving me choice. Okay, I was about
Yeah.
to straight up just say
So Ironheart or She-Hulk?
Can I say neither?
Now you gotta pick one, which is least bad, I guess, in this case.
I think I'll go with Ironheart,
Okay. Ironheart or Luke Cage?
Luke Cage.
Luke Cage or Jessica Jones?
Ooh, I did like both, but I think I enjoyed Jessica Jones a little bit more.
Good choice, good choice. Jessica Jones or The Punisher?
Oh, Punisher, that one's yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
that one's easy.
And then Punisher or The Defenders?
Punisher. I did like. Don't get me wrong. Don't come at me. The Defenders was good, but just because you put Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Daredevil all together doesn't make it a phenomenal show. Punisher's just such a great character,
It's
dude.
yeah, he's such a great character. It's such a good show as well. Um, The Punisher or WandaVision?
WandaVision.
Dang. I don't disagree, but the fact that you weren't hesitant at all.
It's just it. I just really because I guess since we're on that, WandaVision's another one of those where like yes they used powers and stuff, but it's another one of those that was kind of like to me it felt more experimental too because it really wasn't all about just her
Right.
powers. It was also more on her character and like her trauma and like all this other
Well,
stuff.
technically, it was all about her powers because it was her whole
Because
world
it
she
was
created.
yeah, it
Yeah,
was the whole
technically.
technically yes,
Right. But I get what you're saying. Yeah.
but like the whole point of the story was, her dealing with or trying to come to terms with,
Right. No, that makes sense.
all her trauma and all the other stuff that happened.
All right. Now it gets harder from here. WandaVision or Loki?
Loki.
Both.
Yeah.
You watched both seasons?
Yeah. I
Loki's
just
really good.
yeah, Loki's yeah.
Second
Loki's
season's
definitely
better,
better.
right?
I don't know, man. The first season was really, 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 really good.
Yeah, it was really good.
I would
Um,
say that they're both good. You can't go
uh,
wrong with Loki. You can't go wrong with watching Loki.
right. Loki or Hawkeye?
Man, I really enjoyed Hawkeye, but I think just yeah, Loki overall was just a better show.
I think you,
I mainly enjoyed Hawkeye because of
Kate Bishop.
Kate Bishop and Yelena.
Yelena was only in it for like one or two episodes, no?
I know that was worth it though. That's all I needed. That's
Fair
all I
enough.
needed.
Um, Hawkeye or sorry, you said Loki?
Yeah, Loki.
Oh, it's okay. Loki or Moon Knight?
I have to go with Loki just because of the fact that Moon Knight just did not get the love from Marvel. They just
They gave up on him.
they gave up on him.
Yeah.
And it could have been something crazy because the first season was great.
There's only one season.
Well, yeah, the only season was great.
Yeah, yeah.
The
It was
only
fantastic.
the only season was great, and
Yeah.
they could have like it could have been such a better show if they maybe would have continued it, but they just completely forgot about Moon Knight.
Yeah. But as the show for what it exists, that or Loki.
I think I have to go with Loki just because
That's fair.
I enjoy the character more, and I feel like the story itself in Loki was
More
it,
complete.
it was more complete and a lot more complex too. Like there
I
was a
agree.
lot of moving parts in there. So
I read they made such a good job of Moon Knight and then just abandoning him was I don't get it, but
it
yeah,
was I think it was a mistake, but
it was a mistake. Anyways, Loki or the Netflix Daredevil?
I have to go with the Netflix Daredevil, dude. I
I agree.
loved
It's so good.
Netflix Daredevil,
It's
and I
so
can't
good.
wait for this new season of Daredevil.
Yeah.
Um,
Netflix Daredevil was peak, especially season
mhm, mhm,
3.
mhm.
But
Phenomenal job.
now the next
And
one.
I'm glad they brought him back
Oh yeah,
into moved
so
into the
happy.
to the MCU.
So happy. Um Netflix Daredevil or Daredevil Born Again? As
Netflix
of right,
Daredevil.
yeah, Netflix Daredevil. As of right now, we've only seen Daredevil Born Again,
We've only
season
seen the
1.
Born Again, and really, again, it's a good show, but for the most part, you kind of get you get a mix. Like the first, like I think it was like 8 episodes total. You get like a mix of like the first episode is him kind of like not wanting to be Daredevil because of all the trauma and all the issues that came from that.
Yeah.
And then later on in the episode, it's kind of him like starting to realize like, hey, maybe like Hell's Kitchen does need Daredevil.
If I were to rank it based on the 3 seasons of Netflix Daredevil, I would say season 3 of the Netflix Daredevil is the top, and then Daredevil Born Again season 1 is like on par with season 1 of the Netflix Daredevil. But then the worst is season 2 of Netflix Daredevil.
Okay. Yeah. I could somewhat agree with that. I'd probably put Daredevil season one Netflix slightly above Born Again.
Born Again. But we'd agree that season 2 of Netflix Daredevil is the
Yeah,
worst.
it
Yeah.
was okay.
The only thing that saved it was the Punisher scenes. That's what saved it.
Yes. Yeah.
But anyways, last one. Netflix Daredevil or Wonder Man?
Don't get me wrong, Wonder Man, great show, but just Netflix Daredevil show, dude. It was just phenomenal. It was just phenomenal. I know
Okay.
I know you're on the fence, but to me, I think Netflix Daredevils was just amazing. Wonder
I
Man was a
could go
great
either
show,
way.
or I guess is a great show. But maybe if they release like another season, or maybe see more of Wonder Man, maybe who knows? Maybe I might change my opinion. But for right now,
Right.
Netflix Daredevil.
I could go either way. I could I just maybe it's my recency bias. I would go with Wonder Man right now. I think it is the best of all time, but that's recency bias, so we'll see. But yeah,
Okay.
that's all I got. So you say Netflix Daredevil is the best live action Marvel show of all
Live
time.
action Marvel show. Hell yeah.
All
But
right.
now I got one quick one here for you.
Okay.
And this is just from what I've seen online. So you either agree or disagree.
Okay.
Um, so Wonder Man would have worked better as a movie.
Oh, disagree. 100%
Okay.
disagree.
I very wholeheartedly agree with that because or disagree with it, but agree with it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. We wouldn't
Yeah,
have gotten to see all his
yeah.
characters, his development.
Especially, yeah. It the show it needed time to breathe because if not, again, it would have felt rushed. Like we got
Yeah.
what 8 episodes, so we essentially almost got 7 hours, 8 hours of Wonder Man compared to like maybe 2 hours that we would have gotten.
And to really understand like the character, no way you can understand him in an hour and a half, you know?
Oh no, no.
Yeah.
Um, Wonder Man is Marvel's most experimental Disney Plus show.
Mm, Disney Plus show?
Or let's just say it's Marvel's just most experimental show.
Okay, because if it was with the movies, I still think Guardians is the most experimental, but among shows, yes, I think yeah, all the other yeah, it's got to be. WandaVision is second, but like there's a good gap.
See, I was gonna say, so I think Wonder Man, I would agree. But I think WandaVision and honestly, um, Marvel Zombies is
See,
probably up there just because. Well,
but
no,
that's not really
I take that back because they kind of did technically experiment with it in the What If,
yeah. But
and
that
it's
I
just
feel like
kind
that's
of
a
an addition
branch.
to it.
Yeah, it's like an addition. It's like this is actually part of the main story, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I feel like this was a bigger risk, but it paid off.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. All right. Um. Oh, what's the other one? Sorry, my mind went blank.
You forgot.
Whatever. Yeah, I
You
forgot.
forgot. You
I forgot. Oh well. I guess that's all I got.
That's okay. I was excited, but oh well.
Yeah, I had it in mind. I should have written it down because it
That's
was
okay.
you had said something earlier and it came to mind, but then it completely just escaped my mind.
You son of a gun. That's okay.
Yeah, I
All
thought,
right.
it's not Marvel's like loudest or like flashiest show, but it's
But
actually
it's
like Marvel like actually focusing on like thoughtful, like character driven
Yeah.
show, and we know, and it kind of shows that Marvel is actually willing to like experiment.
Yes, and they're willing to not push an agenda.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
I do not like when I just I don't put politics in my shows or movies, man. Like
Yeah.
I watch shows and movies to like just escape from
And also like
all
if
that.
you are gonna like race swap, like make it like believable, I guess you could say. Like don't just change it for the sake of changing it. Like the way they did, like I know they switched Sam Wilson took over Captain America, but this was the best way that they could
Yeah,
do it
and
because
that's natural because you kind of
yeah.
you got to know Sam Wilson.
Right.
So, and it wasn't like he originated like he was the first like Captain America. He inherited the Captain
Yeah.
America title.
Because it wouldn't make sense to like cast Ryan Gosling as Black Panther. And I'm not sure how they would do that in a believable way either. That would be a difficult one to do believably. But this one was done very believably because Wonder Man was not a very prominent character and they just made it that, you know, he was his idol.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's yeah,
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be one of those shows people are kind of going to revisit later and kind of be like, "Oh, wait, this was actually like
phenomenal.
good."
Yeah,
Yeah. And again, it might not be for everybody, but if you care about like character arcs first and like all that and superhero stuff like all mixed in,
yeah.
then I think it'll be worth your time to watch it.
And you don't need any prior MCU knowledge. It's a pure standalone.
Yep, exactly. That's also the nice thing. You do
Yeah.
not need any homework to understand this character. It's like
Zero.
brand new.
Because even the people have me like me and you who have watched 95% of Marvel's MCU stuff, we forgot who the Mandarin was because it's been so
Mm-hmm.
long. So
Because it's been hell, I don't even know when Iron Man 3 came out, but it's been a while.
like 2011 or something. Yeah, it's been so long. So like you don't need to do any homework. Yeah, that's all I got.
All right.
Oh no, thanks for tuning in. See you guys next time. Bye. Bye, everybody.